I'm not aware of there being any specific or concrete proposal that would relieve potential liability. But it is something that energy companies, particularly those who funded and drove misinformation and disinformation campaigns to deny climate change and to undermine or marginalize scientific efforts. Look, the frame for a mass tort liability suit is, was there a harm? And I think the evidence is building that the harm is dramatic and significant and expensive. And then second, is there a remedy? And then is there a duty? It is the duty that is the more attenuated. If you were selling tobacco that your scientists told you was killing people for decades, and you intentionally concealed the science and then lobbied in order to prevent any accountability, that's ultimately what led to massive lawsuits against the tobacco industry. Really what gave extra gas to that was that states were bearing the costs of caring for the people who had been harmed by tobacco. This similarly is going to be a piece of the conversation as state and local governments are bearing higher and higher costs for responding to climate-driven impacts. There's going to be a look for where's the revenue. And mass tort litigation is not a particularly finely focused vehicle for both accountability and revenue for something as diffuse as climate change. But it's not something I'd take off the table until we were in sort of the final stages of a conversation about truly bold levels of investment. I'll remind you, a carbon price, the kind of mechanisms we're talking about, if it raises $2.5 trillion over 10 years, and that is available to be reinvested in responding to some of climate impacts, and energy companies genuinely, actively pressed for it, that would weigh in favor of there being some accommodation. But if they continue to fund and support and advance climate denial and actively oppose market-based mechanisms that are actually broadly supported by bipartisan leaders of previous administrations, that begins to build more and more of the case for some moral liability, if not legal liability.